Good morning, everyone. Let's start our Saturday class with some mantras first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha, Tatsavitravare Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto Ma Sadgamya तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गमय ओम सहनावतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. In this class we are studying Yog Darshan, Patanjali's Yog Darshan. And we are still on the chapter number 1. And the name of this chapter is Samadhi Pad. Okay. Pad means chapter also, it means part also. So this part of the discourse is about Samadhis. And in the last few verses, to be exact, it's verse number 42 to 45, we've been learning about sabijah Samadhis. And that is what Rishi Patanjali is telling us in this verse number 46, where we are starting our class today. Ta ev sabijah samadhi. Ta word is a plural of tatra. So singular is that and plural is those. So that means referring to the different forms of samadhis described in the previous sutras. So those. Ta. Ev means only, alone. Sabij. That is a compound word. Sabij. Sa means with and bij means seed. So together a state of samadhi where the mind is able to see the cause of both bondage and liberation. The state of samadhi that leaves its own impression also on the mind. Even though samadhi is supposed to clean the mind, the consciousness, the deeper part of mind, but again it can put more impressions there too. That is a sabij samadhi. Okay. So samadhi, it's almost like if we are mopping the floor, we want to make it clean, but still we leave some streaks behind. That's the kind of a samadhi which is called a sabij samadhi. So samadhi is a spiritual absorption. So those samadhis are indeed the samadhi with seeds. Savitarak, savichar, sa-anand, sa-asmita. Those are the samadhis which we learned earlier. All authentic sources of wisdom tell us that mind is the source of both joy and sorrow. Intellectually, we know that, but intuitively, we need to feel it. But because we don't have a direct experience of this truth, with our disturbed, distracted, and confused mind, we go on searching for the causes of our joy and sorrow in the external world. Even though the causes are right inside us, but we are just looking at the wrong place. So over here, Patanjali reminds us that in the deep state of samadhi, all seeds of our joy and sorrow are exposed to the inner light. In this light, we discover how to attain freedom once and for all. That's why a goal of a yoga abhyasi is samadhi first. We gain clarity of mind either by meditating on a spiritually illuminating stream of thought. That was the savichar. We learned in verse number 143. The finest state of meditation leads to knowing ourselves. So not just the thoughts, not just the images, not just the joy, but ourselves at the deepest level. And that process was also described in those verses. And as a practitioner, when you move deeper in meditation, you come to know that your world of thoughts is made of, it's almost like a building blocks of our inner life. Because of that, the way we speak, the way we think, the way we act, and that's how you start to learn the dynamics of the subtle forces and shape your personality. So in this sutra, Patanjali is making an important point. Each of the different forms of samadhi described in the preceding sutras contain seeds. Seeds. Those are the impressions of the sanskars. These seeds are quite potent. Still, they have the capacity to sprout, mature, and reproduce. So that's why these samadhis are called the lower levels of samadhi. So we got to be careful. We got to see that what kind of a seed I am really nurturing, so that we don't have to harvest an undesirable crop later on. By meditating on any object, tangible or subtle, you will cultivate a one-pointed mind. The quality of the meditative object will sow its own seeds in your mind. And one day, that seed will bear fruit in the fertile ground of your one-pointed mind. So this whole picture should be clear to us. All samadhis are spiritual, because you cannot reach a samadhi unless it's spiritual. But only a spiritually illuminating object of meditation will give you spiritual samadhi. That's why choosing an object is very important. So while you work towards reclaiming a peaceful, tranquil mind, you got to look at the meditative object also, while you're going through these lower levels of samadhis, sabijah samadhis. The next verse, the topic is about a little higher. But we can understand the rest of this chapter if we keep on practicing also. If we have never reached that state, sure, it's good to know, but this should definitely encourage us to spend some time on our meditation seat also. Without meditation, without reaching at that calmness or the clarity, these are just words. But at least let's look at what Rishi Patanjali is saying. Verse number 47. Nirvicharavaisharadye adhyatmaprasadah. Nirvichar. Nir means without. See, earlier we learned savichar. Now nirvichar. Okay? So nir is without, vichar means thinking or reflection or contemplation. So state of samadhi that transcends the realm of thinking. The samadhi devoid of the thought process. So you have really transcended that mind, left it behind. Nirvichar. Vaisharadye, upon purification. Unless our mind is pure, we cannot reach to nirvichar. That's why purity is extremely important. The mind has to be transparent. We have to infuse our mind with the sattvic qualities. So upon filling it with pure virtues or the virtue of purity, that's called Vaisharadaya. adhyatma, spiritual adhyatma, seated in spirit, adhyatma. Prasadah. Prasad means bliss or joy or illumination. Prasad. From further purification of nirvichar samadhi, spiritual illumination ensues. So when samadhi becomes like a lower samadhis, they are still an obstacle. Even though any samadhi is better than a no samadhi. But attachment to the experience of samadhi will prevent us to move on to the higher levels of samadhi. Attachment. That's why in the ultimate sense, the samadhi, lower samadhi, if we get attached to it, that becomes obstacle too. This is the point he's trying to make for us over here. So experience of sabijah samadhi can become an obstacle. So he's offering a solution to us. Okay, so he's not discouraging us. He's not saying that don't go for that sabijah samadhi. If we have a lot of seeds of the sanskars, we have to burn those. It's almost like if we buy a piece of land, it's full of weeds, we have to burn those weeds before we can till the ground and plant new seeds. But only buying the land, looking at the weeds is not going to give us anything. So this is the point he's making. So through practice, meditation on both gross and subtle objects matures into sabijah samadhi, and where the mind is so clear. In a sabijah samadhi, mind is clear, calm, tranquil. Yogi is able to see everything that lies in his or her inner world, including the most subtle causes of our thought, speech, and actions. Yogi is able to see, why do I talk the way I do? Why did I take birth in certain form, in a certain family? What is my relationship? What kind of a karmas I need to burn? Yogi can see that with the help of the samadhi. But sabijah samadhi leaves its own subtle impressions on the mind. In other words, meditation creates its own groove, motivating the mind to repeat the similar action of meditation. In my meditation, if I saw some beautiful place, even though it's a heavenly place and I want to go there again, that becomes attachment to the sabijah samadhi. Just like attachments in the external world, these are the attachments in the internal world also. And he's warning us. So here in this sutra, Patanjali is making a very important point. After reaching the state of sabijah samadhi, if you further infuse this samadhi with the sattvic virtues, nirvicharavaisharadye, that is a key word over here. Or if you do not commit yourself to a higher level of inner purification, you will stay at the lower levels. Even though your mind has become one-pointed, even though you are practicing, but that does not mean that you will have further spiritual benefit. Spiritual benefit can be reaped only if we have sattvic virtues of buddhi, the inner intelligence. Sabijah samadhi has an inherent drawback. And that's why we have to overcome in order to move forward in our inner journey. that drawback is that as sabijah samadhi, you are confronted with the revelation of everything. You are made of your strengths and weaknesses, vices and virtues, binding and releasing forces of your mind and senses. By nature, the mind preserves all the subtle impressions, the seeds of our past. So we can further get attached to it. It's almost like in a previous life, you were murdered by certain religious person or group of people. That impression isn't there. And this revelation comes to you because the impression is there. When this is revealed, you can now, in the wakeful state, start hating those people. Because all the impressions are right there in our Chitta. That is the storehouse of our impressions. So in other words, if you are not careful, the revelations that arise in sabijah samadhi can overcome or overwhelm, haunt, and even confuse you. A negative revelation can infuse you with a sense of unworthiness. Suppose you did something wrong, and then you get stuck to that. Your mind is just constantly reveling into that, the negativity which happened maybe several lives ago. Or if it's a positive one, it can make you egotistical. Both are equally damaging. That's why. So this sutra offers a solution. While you continue reinforcing your establishment in the sabijah samadhi, make sure you fill this samadhi with the virtues that add to the purification of your mind. Keep on purifying, keep on purifying. In Sanskrit, there are many words for purity. Patanjali selected a word, Visharadye, in this sutra. So the kind of a purity will truly make your mind so pure that you can overcome the hurdles which can arise from the sabijah samadhi. So purification word is Visharadye. Literally means the essential qualities, characteristics, and attributes of the goddess Sharda. Sharda is a name, another name for Devi Saraswati. I'm sure you are familiar with that. The goddess of wisdom and creativity, who is the inherent Shakti or the power of the Creator himself, Brahma. We all know the counterpart of Brahma is Saraswati. In Indian mythology, the goddess is described as sitting on a white swan swimming in a lake of milk. In one of her four hands, the goddess holds a white lotus in full bloom. In the other hand, she holds a book. And with her other two hands, she plays a celestial veena, a stringed instrument. That is the picture of a goddess Saraswati. From the music of her veena, the life force begins to pulsate, sleeping souls come to life. That's why she is the counterpart of Brahmaji. Sitting on her pure white swan, she floats on the lake of the mind. She witnesses the entire lake and everything it holds, and yet remains above it all. She does not sink down. She floats. She knows all, yet remains unaffected by what she knows as the essence. So we got to learn how to embrace this essence as part of our spiritual practice. While we are meditating every day, morning, evening, we are doing our prayers also, but at the same time, we got to make sure that we keep on purifying our mind further and further. Purity. Only then, as a meditator, as a sadhak, will feel the lasting joy, lasting bliss, which really resides in the core of us. Because that is the essence of our soul. But purification we have to do. Then from here, what happens? Look at the next beautiful verse. Verse number 48. Ritambhara tatra prajna. Ritambhara. Again, two words. Rit and bhara. Ritam means eternal law, law of nature. The basic principle of existence that defines truth. Or you can say ultimate principle of sustainability, that is Rit. Bhara, Bhara means filled with. So that means when we look at Ritambhara, the state of consciousness which is saturated with the Ritam. Ritambhara, it's full of it. No empty space. Tatra means that or there. Pragya. Pragya word is for intuitive knowledge. The knowledge that transcends the limitations of time and place. Pragya. So when we reach the Nirbij Samadhi, going through the Sabij Samadhi, then the Nirbij Samadhi, because we are further purifying ourselves, we are not attaching to anything at all. It's a very high level of Vairagya also. We attain this. Therein resides intuitive wisdom laden with rhythm. The self-propelled law of sustainability. This is the dawn of intuitive wisdom. Otherwise, people talk about, I have intuition. Intuition word is overused, just like a meditation word is overused. Intuition comes when we reach here. That is intuitive wisdom. So a little bit going back, Patanjali describes the entire range of samadhis in two main categories. The reason I want to go back so that you can see where we are. Sabij and nirbij, lower and the higher. Okay, so 9 sutras, 42 to 50, he dedicated to explain Sabij Samadhi. Only one sutra, the previous one where he explained the Nirbij Samadhi. That shows how important it is to go through the initial stages of Samadhi. Once a person has reached to the Nirbij, there's no explanation needed. Explanations are needed only in the earlier stages. Once we are established there, these words don't mean anything. So that's why just one sutra for us to know that there is something higher than the Sabij Samadhi too. So that's why so much emphasis is placed by Rishi Patanjali on the Sabij Samadhi. We need mental clarity. Mental clarity comes when we transcend the world of thoughts and allow the mind to become completely still. This is a crucial stage in our inner journey. And if we are not careful, as the mind becomes increasingly still during this stage of meditation, what happens? Tamsikta, sloth and inertia. We think that we are meditating and we start imagining. We got to be ultra careful. Why? Because long cherished and often well hidden attribute of tamas is there in us. In the nature, the tamsikta, rajsikta, and satvikta, there's an interplay of all these three going on. And if we become little careless, the tamsikta will take over. We think that we are being very still, but it could be stillness, which is inertia. So while sitting in meditation, you may fall asleep, and upon awakening, you tell yourself that you have just emerged from samadhi. Just as upon awakening from a long sleep, we do not find ourselves any wiser. This kind of a thought-free meditation does not grant a spiritual awakening. The experience of sabijah samadhi demands that you are vigilant and committed to infusing your mind with inner purity. It's not physically, a person looks like very inactive, but there's a lot of activity is happening internally during sabijah samadhi. Because you got to burn all those seeds. Inner purity is happening. And you cultivate this inner purity by actively practicing compassion, kindness, dispassion, and selfless service. That's why people who practice this, who have risen to this level, this just becomes their second nature. To do the seva, to have this vairagya, the dispassion from this external world and people. And they're always kind. They're not just kind to few people, they're kind to all. Animals also, birds also, earth itself also. And they are compassionate. So refinement in the practice of sabijah samadhi comes not only from how your daily life, but also from balancing the practice of meditation with contemplation and self-reflection. Sometimes we think we work so hard in the outer world. The inner world is a lot deeper. A lot more work is needed to clean it. So as far as the technique-oriented aspect of meditation is concerned, make sure you discipline your mind. Let it rise above all disturbances and distractions and make it one-pointed. Watch your mind, be the watcher of your mind. And most important, don't let your one-pointed mind fall into the trap of stupor. Because mental stupor is very hard to detect. So that's why Patanjali advises us to remove tamas from the mind and replace it with the sattva. Because we know that once a stupor sets in, the mind has no awareness that it has been stupefied. Okay? It's very clever. So be alert. So in other words, to emerge as an enlightened soul, you need more than a one-pointed mind. You also need a mind that is clear, calm, and vigilant. You need a mind that has attained the purity required to contain the force of revelation that accompanies sabijah samadhi. Okay? So samadhi is not just a word. Remember that. Samadhi and intuitive wisdom, prajna, they go hand in hand. As you progress in your meditation, you become spontaneous and quick to distinguish right from wrong and good from bad. Clarity is there. Your judgment becomes sharper and your decisions are free from doubts. You don't keep on fluctuating. Should I do this? Should I not do this? You have the clarity. As a result, you gain confidence in yourself, and that strengthens your willpower, sankalp shakti, and determination. You are no longer afraid of the unknown. This is how you find yourself walking on the path of self-mastery effortlessly. Okay? If after practicing yoga and meditation for a prolonged period, you do not see these changes occurring, you must question your practice. It's almost like if you cook something in the kitchen and it doesn't taste right, you wonder why. Where did I go wrong? And this practice of meditation is more important than just a mere meal for the body. So this is why Patanjali tells us here in this Sutra 48 that intuitive wisdom laden with rhythm, the self-propelled law of sustainability, resides in the sabijah samadhi. It's a very powerful way he is telling us. The light of intuitive wisdom that dawns during the stage of samadhi is so bright that we begin to see the seeds of our sanskars. That means we begin to see our karmic deeds. Some of those karmic deeds may be noble and delightful. At the other hand, there could be painful, dishonorable. Without even wanting to lie, why do I lie? I know I should not waste time. Why do I waste time? I should not have negative thoughts in my mind. Why do I have negative thoughts? You'll have clarity of that. So the mere act of seeing the seeds of your karmic deeds helps you. The power of discrimination, which is called vivek, enables you to decide which particular seed is to be nurtured and which is to be discarded. Because there are good seeds also. There are not so good seeds also. We got to look at those. And we can see it only in our sabijah samadhi. And the power of dispassion, the vairagya. You remember that two tongs to pick up anything? The same way to rise up, these are the two ways, vivek and vairagya. Vivek tells us what to hold and what not to hold, and vairagya puts your power of discrimination into action. Vairagya. What I need to be detached from. Anything temporary. Anything useless. Anything which is not right. So first you got to know what is right and what's wrong, and then let go of the wrong. So sabijah samadhi is the most productive phase in our inner journey. Even though nirvicharavaisharadye samadhi sounds great, but we got to walk through, climb over the sabijah samadhi too. Sure, going on top of the mountain, it feels good. But got to do the hard work of climbing on the top also. So sabijah samadhi is like that. At no other times is the mind as active and productive as during this stage of meditation. The mind is fully focused and is free from all distractions. All of its potentials are fully awakened and also at its disposal. And due to the fact that at this moment your intuitive wisdom is laden with rhythm, no force can stand in its way. Absolute clarity has become its nature. It's no longer ignorant of its abilities, duties, and responsibilities. It will not shirk from the responsibilities. The mind knows that it has been given a body to serve the purpose of the soul, and that all bodily forces are at its command. You can see the clarity at this point. And this enlightened mind also knows to what extent the craving of the senses are to be fulfilled, and at what level they need to be disciplined. When do I need to withdraw from those objects? And having attained such an elevated state of mind, a yogi is neither pulled by charms and temptations of the world, nor repelled by the pain that is mingled with every worldly experience. Such a yogi lives in the world and yet remains above it. The revelation of higher truth is the hallmark of sabijah samadhi. For many seekers, this gives rise to a very crucial question. How can I be sure that the knowledge that descended in my mindful during meditation is a revelation of intuition, not a figment of my imagination? Patanjali will address this in the next sutra. That's why I keep saying that all these sutras, they are like gems on a string. So you got to make sure that you remember what has been taught by Rishi Patanjali. The answer is always coming in the next sutra. But if you don't even remember what the question is, the answer will not make any sense. So the next verse, let me read it to you and we'll go through it next week. Shrut anuman pragya anya vishyaha vishesh arth dvat. He says the content of intuitive wisdom is totally different. Sources and inference. For both its sources and its intent are unique and extraordinary. So we'll further in detail look into it next week. So verse number 49, that's where we'll start our next week's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.